Steph Kennedy and her journey in the health field and wellness industry in 2017 as a certified athletic therapist and personal trainer. And then that began her journey of discovering more. She was accepted into the Canadian Academy of Osteopathy, where she began working toward achieving her master's in the practice of osteopathic manipulative services. This holistic approach and in-depth study of anatomy, physiology, and biomechanics aligned with her personal philosophy on the interconnectedness of the human body and her belief that no part of the body becomes injured in isolation. So now she works with improving people's health across the spectrum. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning. I am here with a very special friend. She lives in Calgary, Alberta, and her name is Steph Kennedy, and she is an osteopath. So welcome to the show, Steph.
Thank you for having me.
I consider her part of the family already. I really believe in what she says, and I hold that to be true. We actually even ran a half marathon together. But it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So you began in 2017, right? As a certified athletic therapist. So what was your journey before that in the health field, especially? We tend to gravitate to working with people and their ailments and their cares and their worries because of something that happened in our own journey.
Yeah, so I grew up playing lots of sports, so naturally had a few injuries. Some of those were minor, some of them took me out of being able to play for a little while. And we had an athletic therapist that worked at my high school and that kind of stuff. So that was nice to get some help kind of back into sports and, kind of have someone to give you some information along the way so that doesn't feel so discouraging, I guess, to be on the sidelines.
Mhm.
And I had always kind of wanted to be helping people. It's kind of in the medical field, but I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. So then I kind of found out about this athletic therapy, and it was a good way to stay in kind of the sports community. So I started my schooling for that. So I went to the University of Lethbridge and did the Bachelor of Exercise Science through them. And then I also went to Mount Royal University, which is where the athletic therapy program was. So I did all that, and yeah, lots of practicums and that kind of stuff, working with teams while I was in school, and actually found that I didn't really like that. Lots of traveling and lots of, if someone's not injured, you're not doing anything, which is good for them, but it's a little bit boring. So I found that I really liked the clinical side when I was working in the clinic, and there was kind of a steady stream of people that you would get to work with. And so yeah, finished up school and started working as an athletic therapist just in the clinical setting. But that was also at a gym, so they hired me as a personal trainer as well. So then I got to do a little bit of both of that. And I just found that I took some continuing education and that kind of stuff along the way over the few years between finishing my athletic therapy and starting my osteopathy. But yeah, I just found it wasn't enough information for me about kind of like why things were happening for people, like how, everything worked together, why some people got better, why some people didn't, all that kind of stuff. And so I started looking for something else that was going to give me kind of a bigger, more holistic perspective on what was actually happening for people. And then I started seeing an osteopath myself, and just thought it was really amazing and very all-encompassing. And I was really excited about that. So I started looking into schools, and I found the Canadian Academy of Osteopathy, and I got accepted there and started my 4-year journey through school with them.
You actually were in the academic field for 8 years then.
Yeah, long time.
Osteopathy. I know that osteo relates to, is it bones?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
pathy relates to pathology, like, right? So if you put those two words together and go osteopathy, what is it really the study of?
Yeah, because that's something a lot of people struggle with because, they just think you look at bones or they think it relates to osteoporosis, which like, fair enough. But yeah, it was kind of named more based on that the bones create the structural framework of our bodies. And so with osteopathy, with the manual therapy, you're trying to help bring back the correct structure. So we kind of bring back that proper alignment so that the body can function properly. So it's almost like that bony framework is the blueprint for your body that we're basing things off of. But it's not just limited to the bones. We look at all the systems of the body, all the tissues. But yeah, it's just a little bit of a confusing name.
So, okay, so you look at all the systems. So when I think about systems in the body, from my point of view, I think of a human body having like four quadrants, and maybe not separated that way, but four batteries. So the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and the mental. And if any one battery is low, we start pulling from another battery to bring it up to where it's needed in order to function, just to function. So that's my understanding of systems in the body. So, in your experience and with your academic background, what do you classify as the systems of the body?
Yeah, so osteopathy, the founder of it, definitely he did talk a lot about like mind, body, spirit, and the interconnectedness in that way. So that's definitely all very important. Systems I usually think about a little bit more just like in anatomical sense. So your musculoskeletal system, your nervous system, your endocrine system, your digestive system, kind of all of those things. When we're thinking about just the physical body, I guess, in that way.
Okay. So, give me a scenario. So, if I come into your clinic and we were talking just briefly before we came on the show about injuries at this time of year due to New Year's resolutions. So, being probably in my second half of life, I'm thinking, I know that my body can't take what it used to. And I think that New Year's, we just go gung ho, right? We're going to hit the gym every day. We're going to lift those weights. We're going to get in shape this year. We're going to run that full marathon. We're going to do all those kinds of things. And yet our body is not ready to handle it. So if I came to you with an ailment such as my hips, right? My hips are like, oh, out of whack. And I get this shooting pain in my hips, not only when I'm running on the treadmill, but it's like it's starting to become even when I'm starting to walk or get up from the chair or on the couch. What would the process be in order for you to take a look at me and maybe develop a program for me?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely the first thing that happens when people come in is you would tell me your story, just like that, kind of what's going on. People always have to, fill out their health history beforehand, so we can get an idea of anything in the past that might be kind of contributing to what's happening now. Also, just making sure that everyone's safe to treat because sometimes people don't realize they might have something more serious going on. So we need that information to make sure that if we're not the appropriate person to be seeing you at that time, we can refer out to someone that can help. But yeah, we go over all that stuff, and usually I have to explain to people what osteopathy is. But then, yeah, when we're getting into the assessment and that kind of stuff, we do a bit of a global movement of having you kind of move around your body and seeing how things move when you're doing it, and kind of globally how things are moving together and what's not necessarily moving together. And then when we're getting more into like hands-on testing how things are moving, we always look at the whole body because usually where something hurts isn't where it started. because everything is connected. So we have to make sure that we assess how all the structures are moving in the body and figuring out if their body has made a pattern of restriction, compensation, that's, causing the pain in the hips as well, but is really trying to just help the body continue functioning through your daily life is why your body is going to create this pattern. So we would go through assessing how everything's moving and get a picture of what's happening in the body and how that can be leading to the pain that's happening in the hips.
Okay, so in your experience, sometimes I do get this pain in my hips, right? And I have been getting acupuncture for that.
So usually we look at, like, we don't necessarily, like, we don't diagnose, but we give a structural diagnosis, I guess you could say. So when we're looking at the hips hurting, a lot of people, you have a preference for the hip rotating one way or the other. And then, we get up into the big pelvic bones. And again, one wants to rotate one way, one's rotating the other. Getting up into your tailbone, your lumbar spine, same thing, like there's this motion preference that things want to go a certain way. And they don't like to go the other way. So then when you're trying to walk and move and do all these things, your body, like the joints aren't moving together in the way that they're supposed to. And so then you start getting those pain in the different areas and that kind of stuff as there's, too much pressure and inflammation builds up and all that kind of stuff. So we don't really give a diagnosis. Like I know sometimes you go to a physio and they'll call something a tendonitis and that kind of stuff. We don't really do that. I would give more the mechanics of, this isn't moving here, that's not moving there. This is kind of what's creating this pressure and inflammation to build up in these areas.
So would you put me on a treadmill or have me walk? Is there something that you do, Steph, where you actually physically watch your client come, as they are in this movement?
We don't really do like on a treadmill or having someone do a specific exercise. Usually walk people kind of as they're like walking into your office and that kind of stuff, and taking off their jacket and all these things. You kind of watch kind of what they're doing, and or even how they're sitting when they're talking to you. Kind of gives you an idea of how they're maybe always sitting at home at work or something. And then we just do a little bit, yeah.
Right.
A little bit more of a global, like we have people kind of go through like flexion, extension, like those movements, but not treadmills. Like we wouldn't really have someone go do a squat. That kind of stuff is more on like the physio, athletic therapy, chiro kind of side of things.
Right. Let's talk about yoga and all those other things that people tend to do. Physio, chiropractor, yoga, massage, acupuncture. What is your view of all of those procedures? I guess you could call it procedures in your background and with your academic understanding. What do you see as the benefits? And I also wanted you to explain maybe what are the limitations.
Yeah, I think every profession, yeah, has benefits and limitations. Otherwise, there would just, be one that worked for everyone. And yeah, most people need usually more than one thing to kind of get them back to where they're wanting to be with whatever's going on. But yeah, I definitely find with osteo, because we always look at the whole body. So, we're not just like kind of working on the one area that hurts or kind of like a quadrant that is that it's been assessed. But yeah, we assess the whole body to make sure we kind of get everything moving and the whole body moving, and again all the systems like functioning together so your body can actually heal better and just feel better kind of overall. But yeah, like something like physio is really great, right? If you know maybe we get everything moving really well through the whole body, but you're exercising and you keep getting this reoccurring injury in your shoulder or wherever, and it's actually maybe more due to like a strengthening issue or a bias in you're using too much of one muscle group, not enough another. And so physios are a lot better at doing that kind of stuff, right? Like they are going to be assessing the strength and working on the motor aspect of things. So making sure everything's functioning that way and creating, a strengthening program for people. So I think that's really beneficial. And maybe not necessarily like a limitation wise, I guess, like if they don't have other things moving well in the body, again, that might not help because you might kind of continue creating more biases in how you're moving and that kind of stuff if you're trying to strengthen it when there's still imbalance in how things are moving, not just in the strength. But yeah, I think physio is really awesome for helping with some of that stuff. Yeah, chiropractors, I've actually never seen a chiropractor myself. But yeah, they, again, usually a little bit more isolated or more focused on just the spine, which I mean, a lot of people do have restriction in those areas. So it can be beneficial for sure to kind of get into that kind of stuff. I personally, I just don't really like being cracked, so that's why I haven't gone. And there's some chiros that don't do that, so I don't want to, speak to, what they do. They're not all doing that, but yeah, it is definitely a little bit more of an isolated, um, isolated practice. And again, it can be beneficial, right? Because sometimes osteo is more gentle, and we can be getting in there and getting all this more blood flow to these areas and all that kind of thing, but something's really still not moving. Like maybe a chiro does need to get in there and get a little bit of more force through something. But again, if you haven't done that work kind of beforehand to get things moving around, like getting everything else moving better, maybe it's not going to be effective to just go in and kind of get more motion into that one joint, right? But again, can be very beneficial for people, and it works really well for some people. And then massage, yeah, massage is really nice. Like a lot of people like it for like the relaxation side of it even, which is good because we're all so stressed all the time. And yeah, they typically work more with that soft tissue. So like the muscles and the fascia and that kind of stuff. They're not really getting into, the joints and all that other kind of stuff with their work, which again, maybe you're just not quite hitting the right things to get someone fully better. And that's why it's good to have kind of that balance of, one or two or a couple different professions that you see to kind of get you along and working on all those different areas. And yoga was the other one you were saying. Yeah. Yoga, yeah, it's good to, I guess do something yourself to try and help feel better versus like seeing, having someone else work on you. I think it's can be tricky if you have those restrictions and that kind of stuff and you're trying to get into those poses. You can really force things and be in positions that your body's not really ready to be in. So sometimes people do get injured doing that kind of stuff. So it just kind of depends if your body's limitations and you're okay kind of working within those and progressing through rather than trying to like kind of force things through.
Right. Yeah. And everything's a lot of money. Things cost money, right?
Yeah.
So whether you're having going to 3 or 4 of the things that I talked about, like it all starts to cost so much money. So if I was to come to see you and you would diagnose me and you said, Fran, it's obvious, you sit crooked. And I would like, yeah, I know, I sit crooked. And I always leave this place where I do so much work in the same direction every single time. I think you'd probably say, yeah, you've got to change things up, Fran. You got to make your body more balanced. But what else would you, once you see me moving and not really diagnosing, but you can see what's going on, what would you do next?
Yeah, so once we kind of have that assessment piece done and an idea of what's happening, when we're actually talking about osteopathic treatment, so we're going into that pattern and we're going to help try and take that out, so that your body doesn't have these motion preferences. So typically our process, right, we start with like the really big things going on in the body, like maybe like just everything in the front of the body is really tight, you're really, pulled forwards, all that kind of stuff. So that's a really global thing happening in your body. And so we want to kind of work first on taking out that layer, getting that opened up so that we can actually see what's going on in those other places, because that's going to be hiding kind of a lot of stuff underneath there. So it's kind of that peeling onion analogy. So we're going to start with those really big things that we're finding in the body that are, including a lot of tissues and that kind of stuff in them. And so we're going to work on opening that up first, and then we can see what's going on underneath there. So there's a lot of like treatment reassessment kind of thing as you're going through an osteopathic treatment, so that, okay, now we, got this opened up, what's happening underneath here. Okay, this is the next big thing that we're going to work on. Maybe we get this opened up and it's like, okay, there's actually, a lot of stuff happening in your lumbar spine now. So we're going to kind of start narrowing things down into like kind of smaller areas as we go through this treatment process. So it's this like kind of progressive unloading of these tissues and systems and stuff in the body. And then, and that's to help open up that space. So, if you are always turning this way and your body likes to just stay in this position, now you can start to go the other way. So that's kind of what our goal is, just to get that all opened up, get that blood flow going back through those areas, clear out that inflammation, get the nervous system relaxed. Yeah, so it's hands-on treatment for everything with it. So it's not massage. Like massage, they kind of like get, right on those muscles and they're, going back and forth, that kind of thing. So osteopathy, a lot of the techniques we use are working more, with the reflexes between like the nervous system and your muscles. So we can use those connections to help get the muscles to relax without actually, kind of digging into them. So, relaxing the nervous system, like let's say, you're really a lot of tension through the side of your neck, and a lot of time people try to stretch, right? So you're taking that tissue that's already under so much tension and really irritated, and now you're trying to make it go even further the way that it doesn't want to be going. And that really kind of heightens up your nervous system. So something that we would work on is we call it indirect treatment. So we would start by bringing that tissue all together, kind of compressing that, taking it where it wants to go, so that it can relax and kind of calm down your nervous system there. I think if you think about like sometimes you got to push the drawer back in before you pull it out. So we want to get that, calm down, and then we can bring things back and then start challenging it that other direction, which people typically would think of as like a stretch kind of thing. So that would be a little bit of working with kind of calming down the nervous system, is by taking those tissues more into a compression. And then we can also work with the reflexes. We have our receptors in our muscles that tell them how long they're supposed to be. And sometimes that can get, kind of messed up depending on what we have going on in our body. So we can use like getting muscles to contract and relax, and kind of contracting other muscles to help shut those things off because of how the reflexes work in our body. We have like a lot of people might know, like if you pick up something that's too heavy for you to lift, you're going to drop it. And so that's that pull and on the tendon is telling your body, okay, no, you need to let go of the tension in this muscle so you don't hurt yourself. So we can work with those reflexes kind of on a smaller level. We're obviously not having you pick up really heavy weights, but just by challenging, like having you push into, bringing you into a position, having you push, and creating that kind of isometric contraction through the muscles. And then, get to relax. We can just help reset those receptors in the muscles and that kind of stuff, so that your body realizes that, oh, I'm not actually in this like state of contraction. Now I can open back up. that makes sense. Maybe going a little bit too much
Wow, that is
sciencey things.
interesting. So I'm thinking about the count. You called it counter. What did you call it? It's where if my
Oh, the indirect treatment.
indirect.
Yeah.
So it's actually counterintuitive.
Yes.
It's counterintuitive. Okay, my muscles in my neck are sore over here. Instead of stretching them as probably we would if we were in yoga or if we were doing this ourselves at home, you tighten them, tighten them. And there's so much in that, Steph. It's almost as though we're not, I always think of the whole body system and the emotional state of the body, right? So if I'm being pushed to the extreme, I've been on my screen all day long. I've been working over here, this screen, this screen, this screen. And I'm like, most of the time I'm over here. So I'm doing this thing. And my neck is sore now. You would probably be saying just treat it gently. Don't make it over. No, don't make it work anymore. Just treat it gently. Give it the grace that it needs to be able to rest and relax and not be pushed to the limits that I've been pushing it to. So if I were to take that philosophy of like it's a bit of emotional healing in there. I think. Like, do you ever classify it in that way as an emotional healing of whatever your body part is?
We wouldn't really look at it that way just because that's not like the scope really that we work in. But definitely like we work with the nervous system, right? So when we're all tense and everything's fired up, you've had a long day at work, you're more in that sympathetic, so that flight fright nervous system where like your body can't function properly, right? Because you're waiting for the next thing to attack you, even though that's not
Right. Yeah.
really the reality we live in anymore, but that's still how our nervous systems function. So our treatment is, okay, well, you're freaking out, everything's tense here. Let's take that the way it wants to go. Let's let it calm down. So, in a nervous system sense, um, and let that all relax and get that parasympathetic nervous system, so that's that rest and digest and where your body can actually heal. Let's start stimulating that side of the nervous system, so that things can calm down and your body can get into that actual healing state. Yeah, we typically would look at it more of like a nervous system effect, which can obviously affect our emotions, but we wouldn't necessarily like classify it as an emotional.
Right. Because
Yeah.
it's more of a clinical medical idea rather than a psychological, emotional idea. And I know in your background, for sure, there's been success stories. I mean, you talk about chronic back and nerve pain, some whiplash and ankle sprains, and lots of like in your background. I won't read it now, but maybe you can tell us about something, some success stories, maybe in your own life and maybe in the lives of clients that you've worked with.
Yeah. So I've like I said, as an athletic person, I've definitely injured myself several times. And osteopathy is a newer thing that I've been using, since I only started in 2020. But um, like I've injured ankle and shoulder and all this stuff in this past year, doing obstacle course racing and training for those things. And yeah, so I go to see my osteo for treatment. And yeah, he's really great. And, like working on opening up, the blood flow in and out of those areas and that kind of stuff, and making sure, all those joints and tissues like leading to and from those areas are moving properly, so that things are aligned properly and the blood flow can get there and there's not these abnormal forces going into these joints. So it just kind of helps that healing process along the way, so that you're not maybe stuck so long in that inflammatory state, where your body's trying to heal, but it's taking longer because there's all these kind of other restrictions going on. So I definitely found that's really helpful for that. And like I had a motor vehicle accident while I was in osteopathy school, and a little bit of a whiplash and that kind of stuff there, and went to again my osteo, and working on, he'd like was working on my neck, and he's like, "Oh, were you looking this way when they hit you?" And it's like, "Yep," because you can kind of feel like where he got stuck, right? So yeah, and then just working on getting that, where your body's kind of frozen in that state from when you had that trauma. Um, Working on again opening up that space, getting those tissues to relax so that it can move out of that position, and get rid of that pain and that kind of stuff that you're feeling. So that's kind of like personally some of my experiences that I've had with treatment, which is really great to feel that it
Mhm.
works for yourself.
Mhm. It kind of
Um,
sells you on it, right? It's like if it works for me, it should work for other people as well.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I mean, not everything's going to work for 100% of people, but if you can help most people, then that's really great. So,
Mhm. Exactly. How about
yeah.
some of your clients? Do you have a story of a client who has come to you with a specific condition, or what have you found as results?
Yeah. So like if we're talking about kind of a specific condition, again, we wouldn't treat necessarily the condition, but just the symptoms, like structural things that's created in the body. But like I have a client with cerebral palsy, and we've done a lot of work because some of her symptoms are like leg cramping that, gets so bad that she can't sleep and this kind of stuff, and just mobility issues and that kind of thing from the tension that her nervous system creates in the musculoskeletal system in her body from the CP. And so, yeah, with osteopathic treatment, like we've gotten her to a point where, she's not getting those leg cramps and that kind of stuff anymore. And she's got a lot more mobility. So it's easier for her to walk and do other activities because she really likes trying like different sports and that kind of stuff. And just being able to get a good night's sleep is so important, so not being woken up by these leg cramps that
Right.
keep you up for the rest of the night. So that was like really cool to be able to see the change and effects, that kind of stuff that osteopathy had for her.
Yeah. I would be interested in seeing if Parkinson's as well. Do you have any data on how osteopathy can help people with Parkinson's?
I haven't had anyone come in with Parkinson's. There's definitely got to be some osteopathic studies on that. None that are coming to mind at this exact moment. But that's definitely something that I think you'd be able to find some research on for sure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Because cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, maybe MS,
Mhm.
there's a lot of those types of illnesses that are really popping. I don't think you'd call it an illness, but symptom, a syndrome, are really popping up lately. Like I just find we both are in Alberta, and that I don't know what it is, whether it's the climate or the environment or whatever's going on. There seems to be much more Parkinson's, cerebral palsy, MS, autoimmune illnesses, arthritic ailments that are affecting people way too young, rheumatoid arthritis. So it would be interesting, definitely, to have some kind of data on that and how osteopathy might be able to be beneficial to those people as well.
Yeah, for sure. And even arthritis, like I have this would be osteoarthritis, not rheumatoid, but I have a client that came. I've been seeing him for a while, but yeah, he was knees. He was waiting to get in to see, the knee specialist or whatever for
Yes.
a replacement.
Yeah.
And it was, just kind of try and keep things feeling good, moving good as best as you can while you're waiting for that. And so he actually, I mean, definitely like frequently has to come in and that kind of stuff, like about once a month kind of thing, and like kind of a slow process and that kind of stuff. But he actually ended up getting in to see the knee surgeon, and they're like, yeah, you got arthritis here, but you can move now. Like, you don't feel that bad. Like, I don't think you need knee replacements.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, he obviously still has, limitations. It's not like things move, 100%, the way that they're supposed to and that kind of stuff. But, he's able to do mostly everything that he wants to do with not a lot of pain. So, why kind of go through a surgery when,
exactly.
uh, yeah,
Yeah,
so you can have, and he still has arthritis and all these kind of stuff in the joints. It's not like that goes away, but if you can kind of help the body, with clearing out those inflammation in those areas and taking any excess, like kind of improper loading off those things, like you can help people feel a lot better and without the surgeries and that kind of stuff.
right. I mean, as inflammation, that in itself is the root of much illness.
Mhm.
Like, how do you even know if there's inflammation? How, you as a practitioner, how do you know?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can like physically feel, depending on how much is kind of going on, that there's like fluid and that kind of stuff in areas. But like even if someone has pain, like that's typically going to be an inflammatory, like that is an inflammatory process, right? Because um, that those waste products are building up and that's acidic and it's irritating the
Right.
nerves and tissue damage and all that kind of stuff. So, kind of if someone has pain, they're going to have inflammation.
I have mixed opinions on inflammation. I really believe in the power of the body to heal itself, and that our body does the best it can to send whatever we need to whatever part of the body to protect a way that we're not going to be injuring ourselves further. So, what's your take on inflammation and um, what you have been taught, what you've learned in your field about inflammation?
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. Like our body's always trying to help you. So even though it's frustrating and it hurts and that kind of stuff, like if your body wasn't doing those things, you'd probably be in a lot worse of condition. But yeah, the inflammation, it is a natural process and it's supposed to happen when you're injured and it's part of healing and that kind of stuff. But um, when we have these restrictions and that kind of stuff in our body and there's not proper blood flow in and out of that area, that inflammation is getting trapped. It's there too long. That process is lasting longer than it's supposed to. So we're not trying to, say that inflammation's bad or anything like that because you need it to heal. But with osteopathy, we're just trying to facilitate your body's natural healing processes. So making sure that those restrictions are, being opened up and removed so that the blood can get in there with all those nutrients that your digestive system broke down can get in there so that it can heal and all those products from that inflammatory process and those cells working can come back out so it's not building up and stagnating and causing excessive inflammation and nerve irritation and all that kind of stuff. So we're really just trying to facilitate the body's natural processes. We're not trying to necessarily stop inflammation or anything like that. It's just to
Yeah,
encourage the body really to work the way that it's supposed to and to heal itself as it
yeah.
should if everything's where it needs to be and able to do what it needs to do.
I think if we were still in the hunter-gatherer, right, in that environment where it was necessary to continue to move, to get our food supply or protect ourselves from worrying tribes somewhere, or to just to get our everyday living, just to be able to survive, we would continue to move in a way to be able to continue that process of releasing inflammation. And I think with our sedentary lifestyles, it's get up, get in your car, drive to work, sit at work usually, get in the car, drive home, sit at home, watching TV or scrolling or whatever. I think our body's natural way of getting inflammation has been jeopardized or really put on the shelf. And so we're not able to do that. You being an athlete, I'm somewhat of an athlete. I understand body systems and that as well. And I think that might play into it. Like, what is your point of view on the current lifestyle that most of us live, because this is our life, our job, our occupations, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate kind of what we have to do, I guess, for work and that kind of stuff, even though like you might love your job and that kind of thing, but having to, yeah, sit all day and that kind of stuff, like it's just not good for the body. Like if you ran the entire day, that wouldn't be good for your body either.
Right, right.
It's just like too much of the same thing all the time. And some people don't change positions, and like even if you're sitting in good posture and that kind of stuff, like you're still stuck in that hip flexion and that kind of stuff, so like those tissues aren't being moved and lengthened, and yeah, stuff's gonna, yeah, kind of build up, and you're gonna get more inflammation and that kind of stuff because it can't move in and out the way that it's supposed to. But yeah, it is. I definitely think lifestyle is such a huge factor. Probably one of the biggest factors, really, in all this stuff that people have problems with. Just because, yeah, you're so sitting so long or standing so long or whatever, you're just in one posture all the time, and that's just your body is meant to move, and more than one direction. So when you're not able to move through those other directions and all those different planes of motion and everything like that, you start to lose that mobility. Um, and yeah, and that's when you start getting more of those problems and that kind of stuff. Or yeah, you start really developing a preference to be in a certain position, and then yeah, your body has to try and work through, it's still got to try and pump blood through those areas, even though you're all kind of twisted up. And yeah, just making it really challenging for our bodies to do what they need to do.
Right. So I'm going to ask you this just for the sake of our viewers. I kind of know what your lifestyle is. So, Steph, how do you unwind? And unwinding is a really good term for it because, like me, I've got my shoulders at a different angle. So my body's a little bit wound up in one direction. Maybe it's this direction. So, how do you unwind in your daily life? You're young, you've got a long life ahead of you. What conscious decisions do you make every day? Like you said, our bodies are meant to move. So, what are the conscious decisions that you make every day in order to treat your body well so that it will last, 100 years?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I work out a lot. So, I've definitely had to find a balance over the years too of doing too much with workouts and, doing the right amount and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I like to try and make sure that I'm doing something every day that's, challenging these different ranges of motion in my body. So, maybe that's doing my weightlifting that day, or that's going for my run, or going to ninja class or something like that, to just challenge those ranges of motion that I'm not working when I'm sitting at my desk, typing notes on clients, or even treating people. Like you get into sign of some not ideal postures, although you try to do the best you can. You want to make sure that yeah, you're kind of getting out and doing other stuff, and that's what makes me feel good. And I really like having something to work towards. So doing races and that kind of stuff to train for really is motivating and helps make sure that I get those workouts in. But and if I'm not able to, do weights or something, going for a walk, going hiking, like literally anything to kind of move around and be doing something different is kind of, what I do to keep myself feeling good.
Mhm. Yeah. And so, what would you suggest for a sedentary worker, someone who has to sit at their desk because that's their job? What would you suggest for them because they're going to be in this spot for, you know, be up to 8 hours with maybe a
Mm.
break, couple of breaks in between? What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, I mean, as often as you can, like getting up, doing a little walk, getting things moving, trying to like kind of switch up the position that you're sitting in every once in a while. And that's always good. If people can get the sit stand desks and that
Right.
kind of stuff now. Anything like that that's going to let you change your posture throughout your workday, so that you're not sitting 8 hours or standing 8 hours or doing something for that long of time in the same position. That's usually the best thing you can do for yourself.
Mhm. So if I were to come and see you, Steph, I don't think you are able to do things online, right? Yet at this point.
No, because like osteopathy is really about the hands-on like assessment and treatment components of it, right? Because you got to get in there and see what's moving and what's not moving and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's not really any online option that would really be osteopathic, yeah, at this time. So
Right. So it would have to be into your clinic. So
Mhm.
would you put like a heat somewhere on me first, or like I have experience with physio, and
Mhm.
he always lays me on heat first to, I guess it's to relax my back and my hips. What does your form of treatment look like?
Yeah, so we don't really use any modalities like that for the most part. It's all like the hands-on work. And like to us, that's really important because you can actually feel the tissues responding to you as you're working on them, and that kind of stuff. So it's really, you really are really trying to feel everything that's happening, in those areas you're working on and that kind of stuff. And um, yeah, if you're putting a needle in or whatever, that definitely works for some people and that kind of stuff. But we just don't do it because you can't feel um, what's happening basically when that's going there. So we do other things to help relax the body. So like a lot of the treatment approach with osteopathy, like it's really rhythmic in the way that we move through the body. So like picking things up and moving around and all that kind of stuff. And that really helps relax the body. Um, so we do things more like that to, help, people kind of calm down before you're trying to get into anything. And yeah, kind of working, starting lighter and working your way in like slowly and sinking in and that kind of stuff to help, again, relax versus kind of just getting right into, trying to really get right into those deep tissues right away. So we do stuff more like that to help people relax throughout the treatment and at the start of the treatment versus using the heat or something like that.
Mhm. Interesting. So we are coming close to the end of our show today. I'm going to ask you if you've got any, other than getting up from whatever position, moving your body in a different way, go for the walks, go for the run if that's your thing, hiking and all of that. Is there any tips and tricks that you can give our viewers? I'm not in Calgary today, so I'm not able to come to your clinic, and I don't have access to an osteopath here where I live. So
Mhm.
are there tips and tricks that you can tell our viewers right now to maybe get them on the path to be able to maybe be able to relax their body in the way it needs to be relaxed, or maybe get rid of some of that inflammation?
Yeah, so yeah, osteos, we don't typically do as much like giving exercises and that kind of stuff, but I have my athletic therapy background, so I do tend to give people some mobility exercises or something like that to help kind of encourage that movement and that kind of stuff between treatments. So like I can show you one for the hips that I give to a lot of people and I really like doing it, and it's just to help open up kind of the motion and stuff through the hips. And maybe even some people don't realize how tight they are. So sometimes that's good to
Yes.
know, so that you need to do something about that. Let me see if I can get adjusted here so you can see what I'm going to do. Can't really see the floor. Maybe we'll bring the computer down.
Oh, awesome.
Some acrobatics here. Okay. So this one's called the 90-90. So it's for opening up the hip joints and, obviously your lumbar spine, low back, everything's attached there. So it can help open up other areas as well. But if you can see what I'm doing, I've got kind of this 90-degree angle between my hip and my knee, and then my knee and my ankle on both sides here.
Right?
Um, and if you can, you want to sit up nice and tall. Some people struggle with that, so you might actually need to bring your legs closer together to start. But yeah, you can try and aim for getting this 90-degree position, sitting up nice and straight. And then what you're going to be doing is leaning over the front leg, trying to keep your back nice and flat, and then coming back up. So you can do the hands down on the ground to help give you some support if you need. Or if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can bring the hands up and you're just leaning over and coming back up.
All right.
So working on opening up this internal and external rotation of our hips. And you'd want to do both sides, of course. And you can sit here and it's kind of like a stretch, but I prefer mobility, that moving back and forth through range of motion. I just find it's a little bit more effective, especially if you do this before your workout or before you go for a walk or something like that, kind of whatever your activity level is. But yeah, just getting those hips opened up after, sitting at your desk all day and that kind of thing can really help just loosen up some of that tension and all the way up into your back and that kind of stuff as well.
Awesome. That I am going to do that today. I definitely will do that today.
Awesome.
Thanks. Thank you. And okay, so hope. This show is all about hope. So what are your last words about hope? What in your what kinds of words of hope can you give our viewers today, and even me?
Yeah, I think a big thing for people is, getting frustrated with, their body not working the way that they feel it should or that it used to, and, feeling like they're in pain a lot. And maybe they've tried a lot of different things and hasn't quite got them where they want to be. But, your body is made to heal and it's only ever trying to help you. And so just trying to have that like patience with yourself and, trying to, it can be a bit of a journey to find the right person or right couple people that are going to help you get to where you need to be. But I always think there's hope and that things will improve, because that is sometimes stuff people will ask me is this ever going to get better?
Right.
And all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important. Maybe it's never going to get 100%, but you never want to take away hope from anyone. And that, there's got to be something out there that's going to help, improve things in some sort of aspect, so you can, feel better and, get back more into the things that you're trying to do, or find new things that are going to bring you joy and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I always think there's hope for people to get improvement.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful because sometimes there are some medical somewhere that will say this is only going to get worse, right? And I think that's the worst thing you can say to any human being, to give them that. So your words of hope are beautiful. So thanks, Steph. So how can anyone who's in the Calgary area get a hold of you?
So I run my own business. It's called Kennedy Osteopathy.
And how do you spell that, Steph?
Kennedy, and then osteopathy. osteopathy.com would be my website. And then you can find all the links and everything there. I do work a couple days at a different clinic, so I have some information on that website as well about on my contact page, kind of where I am each day.
Awesome. If we don't have access to an osteo here, wherever we live, are there some good books that you can recommend, or good YouTube channels, or any place you go for more ideas, more interesting articles that you share with your own clients?
Yeah, I really like, there's this podcast called Stop Chasing Pain.
Ah,
And it's run by a chiropractor, actually, but he's got a very holistic view on the body, which is amazing. And he does a lot of kind of some short podcasts too that talk about, kind of how things work in your body and how they're connected, which is, I think, really good for people. And he does go over some different things people can try at home. He's really big into inflammation and lymphatics and stuff. So he's got some stuff there too to help kind of that people can work on to help move inflammation around their bodies or out of their bodies, I guess, and that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So
awesome.
yeah.
Okay, it's KennedyOsteopathy.com. And a great podcast that you're suggesting is Stop Chasing Pain. Sweet. It's been wonderful having you, Steph.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
I've learned so much. I hope if you have an opportunity to check out osteopathy that you do, because there is so much wisdom in the body that is untapped potential, and no one needs to suffer in pain. And so thanks for being here, Steph. And if you are a first-time viewer, please subscribe. It does help a lot. And if you've been with us many times, I honor you. So, Steph, is there an organization where people who don't live in Calgary, but maybe live in other parts of Canada or United States or abroad, can find osteopaths wherever they live?
Yeah, so within Canada, there's a couple of different associations. So I'm part of OstCan or Osteopathy Canada. And so if you go onto their website, you can search the members and you can find osteos that are in your area. And there's another one, the Alberta Association of Osteopathic Manual Therapists. So that's the AAOMT. They also have find members. I'm not part of that association, but those are the two that are for Alberta, Canada. They have members that have gone to osteopathic school for 4 or more years. Um, so kind of those are the big ones. And then there would be like specific ones for like the different provinces, like how there's the Alberta one. There'd
Right.
be like BC and that kind of stuff. I'm just not totally sure the names of those ones. Internationally, I'm not totally sure because osteopathy can be quite different in different countries. So they probably have to do a little bit of Googling if they're in a different country for that. But within Canada, you can at least use OstCan, or you can use one of the provincial associations to find an osteopathic therapist.
Okay. And are you covered by health plans?
It just depends on your plan. I would say most extended benefits plans do cover osteopathy. You just have to check and make sure that there's coverage for it there. But the majority of them, I would say yes.
Okay, good. And for Canadians, we have free healthcare. Is it covered under the normal provincial healthcare plan?
No, unfortunately not. So osteopathy is not a regulated profession. So then it's not like kind of covered by like any government, like provincial, federal government stuff.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yet.
yet.
We're always hoping.
Yes.
So thank you, Steph. And I hope you all joy and freedom in your journey to find relief from whatever it is you're suffering from. You take care. This podcast and Inspired Healing Hypnotherapy do not provide medical advice. The information included here is not limited to text, graphics, images, or other material contained, and are for informational purposes only. No material in this podcast is intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this site.